Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 152 of the Best Games Period. I'm your host, Jack, and with me this week is the incredible, indomitable Marcus Stewart.
Hey, we're not talking about Sailor Moon, are we?
No.
Oh, wow.
No, we are not.
Oh man. I brought the wrong notes. Well, I mean, I'll rebound. Hi, everyone. I'm Marcus. I'm here to talk about the best games, There's no talking cats in this show, right?
I mean, you can imagine that I'm a talking cat.
Okay, which one do you want to be? There's two of them now.
Luna. You can, like a black cat. I talk. I have a little moon shape on my head.
Talk to video game machines.
Yeah. I mean, I go into the arcades, and that's how I prep for this show.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's an interesting... All right. I probably heard weirder pre-podcast rituals.
Yeah, like weirder pre-podcast rituals, like actually preparing for a show.
Yeah, actually maybe getting a nice assemblage of notes and research beforehand, all that good stuff. Kind of, like we got for this kind of show. We're talking about a video game in detail.
Yeah. Before we jump into talking about the subject for this week, how are you doing?
I'm doing swell, busy, enjoying our lockdown here in Florida, which is really just a lockdown everywhere. Playing games.
But you can still go to the beach.
I can if I want to. I don't go to the beach even when we can go to the beach, so that doesn't concern me at all.
Really? Why not?
I don't know. I'm not a big beach person, honestly. I'll go with like friends if that's like the plan, but I don't go on my own volition.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
is there any reason?
No. Maybe I don't like the beach as much as most people, I guess.
Okay.
Like it's fine, but not like, oh, I'll go there. Like that's not my go-to hangout place.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, is anything happening in video games that you're particularly interested about?
Well, I've been playing that Final Fantasy VII remake. That's real good. I haven't picked it up in a little while just because I've been busy. I'm on Chapter 8. I won't say what that is, but if you're playing the game, that's pretty deep. Like I'm about 12 hours into it. That's been a lot of fun. I wrapped up Doom Eternal not too long ago.
How was that?
The game's great. I don't know if I like it as much as 2016 Doom.
Okay.
But I do like it a lot. I still think it's a great game. I'm on the final act of Kentucky Route Zero.
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask you about that too, because I know you had been working on finishing that.
Yeah, so I just hit Act 5. I haven't started it yet. I like that game a lot. I don't know if I'm as in love with it as a lot of people are.
Yeah, people went real gaga for that.
Yeah, I'm not personally, like, I've seen people say like it's game of the year, one of the best games ever made, or their favorite game, which, that's cool. That hasn't hit that, like, I haven't reached that for me yet. Maybe we'll see how it like wraps up, but I think it's good. I think it's really good. I think it's like the storytelling and the methods of storytelling, the way it's presented is really, really cool and not like unlike a lot of games out there, especially a kind of game that it is like a narrative adventure thing. But I am enjoying it a lot.
Yeah.
It has not been this awakening of an experience, I guess, for me.
Yeah, it you had high expectations because of what everyone said about it, and it's just not quite hitting
for
those.
years. Yeah, for years. I've had the game for at least 4 years, like on Steam. Like I bought just the full collection of like with the promise of like, you'll just get the episodes as they come out. And I was like, I'm gonna start this one day.
Yeah.
And then that just never came. So when it was really when it finished, I was like, oh well, now I'll play it since it's done. So yeah, but I am liking it. And then of course a lot of Animal Crossing.
Yeah, I mean it like, to kind of put it into perspective for people, Kentucky Route Zero, it's a multi-episode thing. The first episode came out in 2013, so it's been hyped up for like a good 7 years.
And even with the because there's 5 episodes total, the 5th one came out this year alongside the full release of the game on consoles because it was only on PC until this year. Mm-hmm. And even when the individual episodes coming out, they were all praised by the people that followed it
right as
it was coming out. So I kept thinking about it, like, maybe I should start this. Like, they're like, oh, episode, like, because they only came out once every, like, they came out more frequently back in like the first 2 or 3 episodes. It was like once a year, and then around after Act 3, it was like a couple years, 3 years would pass before the next episode.
Well, you know what else came out in 2013?
What came out in 2013?
A little game called Towerfall.
Yeah, oh, yes, it did. You're so right. 2013, the year of the tower. The years that the towers fell. Oh, wow. Actually,
no.
That sounds terrible.
Oh dear. Oh, dear.
That's a much different year.
Retool.
The year that towers, we fought in the falling tower. Oh,
the fantasy towers that are in no way related to real world towers fell.
No. This is Towerfall. This is a great game.
Did you plan to make a 9/11 joke, or did that just accidentally come
that
out?
That just accidentally came out. I don't plan 9/11 jokes. What kind of person do you think I am? That just came out. It's very unfortunate. It was a real Michael Scott moment there.
Gosh.
But yes, Towerfall did come out in 2013 alongside 2013 was a really eventful year, really.
It really was.
When you think about it.
It was a good year for games.
3 consoles came out that year.
Oh yeah, which ones?
We had the PlayStation 4.
Uh-huh.
You guys, you probably heard of that, right, everyone? We had the Xbox One.
Yep.
And then we had the biggest of them all, I think we can all agree, the Ouya.
Yes, the Ouya, the new #1 console that everyone has and plays.
Still going strong.
Yep, still going strong. Definitely the company still exists.
I can see them from my house.
Yeah, they built a tower off of that Towerfall money. Just in defiance of God and all good taste.
They probably could have, honestly.
No, they couldn't have. It sold terribly.
I mean, well, the game sold great. The console, not so much.
Yeah, the game on the console didn't sell well until the game released on other consoles.
It sold well relative to what it was on.
Yes, that's true. If you had an Ouya, you had Towerfall.
Pretty much.
And I think that this, I'm going out on a bit of a limb. I think that this might be the one and only game that we talk about that was an Ouya exclusive.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be talking about a lot of Ouya games on this show. I think the only other Ouya exclusive that was worth anything at the time was that Frog game.
I vaguely remember a Frog game, but I also do not remember what it was called.
Me neither.
I just remember Frog game. It looked like a bad GTA mod mixed with a frog.
I don't even know if it was actually good or if it was like so wacky. It was like an ironic love. But when the Ouya came out, Towerfall and that Frog game were the only 2 games people were talking about.
Yeah, it's and then it just kind of faded into obscurity, and no one talked about Ouya anymore until it died.
Yep. Which honestly actually didn't happen till last year officially.
What? No.
Yeah. Like
No.
Last year. Well, yeah. So last year, the Ouya store was officially shut down.
Oh my gosh, how did they survive this long?
I mean, it had been dead pretty much, but this was the actual death of it, because Razer bought the assets to Ouya in 2015.
Gotcha.
And then Razer was the one that more or less shut everything down. Was selling off I think it liquidated some stuff.
Yeah,
there's
a weird subsection of gaming where Razer and Nvidia have had multiple goes at setting up consoles of their own.
Yeah, I don't know why Razer bought it. I don't know what the plan was, other than to maybe cherry pick little things about it here and there, because they did not relaunch.
No, yeah.
I think they're just oh, this is cheap. Well, the same reason most people bought a Ouya, probably it's $100. Can't hurt.
Right. I think maybe they wanted to retool that same concept and sell it without competition. Maybe.
Yeah. But yeah, that happened, and then 4 years passed of nothing from the Ouya, and then officially last year, I remember seeing a news story that's oh yeah, that store's closing. So if you have an Ouya, a majority of the apps are pretty much useless. So you got a nice little paperweight now. I mean, it was already a paperweight before that. Now it's pretty much an actual paperweight.
Yeah, it's kind of a sad story. Like, everyone was super hyped about it.
Yeah, I remember like when it was the Kickstarter campaign, when it was coming out, like in like all of 2012, you kept hearing news stories about, hey, they just blew past this stretch goal and this one. This is going to be like a crazy new alternative. Like, hey, Android-based console, you can hack it, you can do whatever you want with it. Which even at the time I was like, that seems how you gonna make money with this thing if you can just like, do a bunch of homebrew stuff? Like, why would anyone buy games if you can just emulate the crap out of it? And that wound up being one of the big reasons why it didn't do very well.
Honestly, it might be worth going out and buying a used Ouya just to make it an emulation machine, especially if you're super into like the SNES Mini and stuff like that.
I guess
not that we condone anything illegal, obviously.
I mean, yes. I mean, I'm not a techie emulation guy at all. I don't know how any of that works, but even I feel like you could probably do that with something better. Maybe I'm wrong.
Like a Raspberry Pi and an old graphics card.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know if you even need to buy unless you find one secondhand in a pawn shop.
I mean, it just has, it did have a nice, like, form factor to it. So, like, maybe you just want something that looks kind of nice that can also do all those things,
Yeah, nice. It was very throwable. That's what I appreciate.
That's what I look for in my consoles.
Like, I could use this as a weapon if I wanted to. Throw it like when you get mad that the apps are closing.
I mean, it's what I like. It's my sling ammunition of choice. Like, if I need to sling something at someone, I get out my slingshot, and then I get out my Ouya. Step 1, step 2.
Exactly. But yeah, it's crazy that I think a lot of people have forgotten, especially people that maybe weren't into games back then, that almost assuredly, most likely discovered Towerfall on one of the many other platforms it came to.
Right.
Now, it's crazy to think that a game as great as that and as successful as that's like started on that like footnote in history, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I mean. That even in a way that it's. I was thinking about this too, because like you said, the Towerfall, when it debuted on Ouya, it really was the only real argument to own an Ouya. It was so fun and it was so well received that I was thinking about it and I was like, was Towerfall the last like true killer app for a new console? Because it's like we don't really get those anymore, especially this generation didn't really have much of like that standout game like. When you think about like the PS4,
I mean, no,
and Xbox One,
I think they had their killer apps at the beginning, like Bloodborne or
no, like killer apps, something
God
like
of War
around
come out near launch.
No, God of War was 2018. Because remember, this is 2013. When like Bloodborne was 2015.
That's right. It really the launch was very bare bones. It had like Killzone Shadowfall and Knack. Yeah.
And Resogun, which is probably the best game out of this year. Resogun's really good.
Yeah.
But like when you think about, I mean, most console launches are always weak. That's just how console launches are. But like, I feel like as you've gotten further away, like, the SNES had Super Mario World Day when you're like, oh man, gotta get that. Yep. Or like the original Xbox launched with Halo. Or Mario 64 for the N64. Like, I feel like the further you go through like, I mean, when I think about the PlayStation 3, like that had Resistance Fall of Man. I remember that being a big one for like, oh, that's an argument to get a PS3. I feel like for the PS4 and Xbox One, like the Xbox One had Rise, Son of Rome, which is not a great game, and like Loco Cycle.
I'm trying to think. I think that like probably the reason that they're doing it is because they're not sure how their new consoles are going to sell, and they don't want to invest both, the time and energy to create a system seller before they know if the system sells.
Well, the PS4 had sold out pre-orders months before it came out. Because remember, this is when the Xbox One.
You can't like develop a game in months. I mean, you can, but it's not going to be like a system seller, really.
I was listening to a pod. God, I forgot who said this in a pod. It might have been like the GI Show or Giant Bomb. It was recently, but someone made a really good point about like why console launch games are usually pretty. Not like bad, but just totally like there's nothing really remarkable. Like they work and they're fine. like they're like, oh, this is just a fine game, but nothing mind blowing, is because the development time is so much shorter because you're trying to get it out on launch day, like, and you're still trying, like, no one that launch window is going to get the full amount of juice out of that hardware. Right. That takes a couple years. So like, still learning the console combined with the shorter time that you might have to get it out, you have enough time to make a game that is totally just fine, like an adequate game, as opposed to like something that's like, whoa.
Yeah, at least
in
visually,
most cases. Yeah, or like, I mean, like Killzone was the game I remember at launch that felt like the only true next gen launch game. When I looked at that, I was like, oh, that looks next gen.
Resogun, though, but like you said, probably the best offering, and it's a relatively simple game.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Resogun's great. But yeah, so like when I think about that, and then I look at like the response to Towerfall of like, literally people were just saying like, this is the one reason to own an Ouya. Like some people were buying an Ouya just to get that. Mm-hmm. And it helped that the Ouya was pretty cheap. Like, it was $99, so it's like
easier sell.
99, a lot of people pay $100 for a game if it's like a special edition anyway. So that's not really out of the ordinary. So like, yeah, like I think about like the only other game, I mean, not the only console launch after the Ouya was the Switch, which had Breath of the Wild, and that's the only argument I could make of like maybe that, because Breath of the Wild is an incredible game. But even that, I feel like since it was a sequel in a long-running series, like even though that is a very different kind of Zelda game, I feel like that's still going to get generally the same kind of audience. Like if you're not into Zelda or Nintendo in general, you're probably not going to be convinced to be like, I gotta get a Switch for that. Mm-hmm. for the new Zelda, the series that I'm not maybe into anyway. Not everyone, but I imagine most cases where like Towerfall being a brand new thing, that like the Ouya probably would have died sooner if it was not for that game, honestly.
Right. And like we should probably actually talk about like what Towerfall is.
That's true.
So Towerfall, again, like, was released in 2013, I think mid 2013.
Like June.
Yeah, and it, like, relatively small dev team, like 3 or 4 people worked on it.
A guy named Matt Thorson.
Well, so I just want to kind of clarify, because this is also, I think, another first that we have, at least to my knowledge, is that Towerfall is the first game directed by a non-binary developer.
Oh yeah, that's right. I saw that Matt
Thorson
came out as non-binary last year.
Yeah, and so that's really exciting and cool, and I think that it probably informs some of the character design that we see in Towerfall. But the basic premise of Towerfall is that it's a multiplayer game that takes place on a like traditional like left-right kind of like side-scrolling type map, except all the players are in a tower, and you can drop down the bottom and appear at the top, and each player starts out the match with 3 arrows that they can then aim, and the goal is to be the last one standing. And so you're all shooting arrows at each other, dodging as best you can, and after you shoot an arrow, it lodges where it lands, and other players can pick them up and shoot them back, or there's also an arrow catching mechanic. And there are also different power-ups that appear on the stage. So there's a whole lot of... It's a very simple concept that ends up being actually quite deep as you get further into it and kind of like get better at the game.
Yeah, the way I would sell this to friends to really kind of boil it down is like, oh, it's basically one-hit kill Smash Brothers.
Yeah. Where
you just shoot arrows at each other. Because it has a lot of Smash Brothers DNA from like the... 4v4, or like it's the Switch version that recently came out goes up to 6 players. There's a standalone Windows version that has 8 players. And yeah, like there's a bunch of different power-ups. Like there's like arrows that explode. There's laser arrows that bounce across, that just ricochet across the screen and can kill you. There's like homing arrows. Like it's a hell of a game, and it's also got like the presentation, it's got like a kind of like a 16-bit, just like pixel art style that looks really good, and it's one of my favorite party games of all time.
Yeah,
it is one of my favorite party multiplayer games ever, and I remember being incredibly jealous that it was only on Ouya when it came out, because I was looking at videos of it, and I was in college at the time that it came out, and I remember being like, oh my god, this looks amazing, like I would love to play this like with roommates and stuff and friends, but it's like it's on this stupid little thing here, and I was like convinced, like this has to come to another platform eventually, like this seems too good and too successful for, you know, Matt or whoever to not port it over. And then eventually it came to PS4 less than a year later in 2014. But it's such a fun game because it's like you said, it's simple to, it's really simple to grasp. Like it's not a very easy premise, like yeah, just shoot the other archers till you're the only one left. But it's pretty much just a multiplayer platformer, like action platformer, because it's a lot of jumping around, like air dashing. You can cling to walls, you know, learning how to combine all those skills, combined with like how to shoot arrows and also dodge into arrows, which is how you catch them. Mm-hmm. It requires a lot of skill. Not it's not a huge barrier to entry, but it's, like I said, it's deep enough to where, like, you know, you can start playing and get it, but when you really stick with it and try to learn the nuances, it's really satisfying. There's a lot to sink your teeth into.
Also, I just want to correct something that we said earlier. I did say that I thought that this game was the first Ouya exclusive game that we would talk about. It is not actually the first. There was one other game that I have talked about that was, at the very least, supposed to be an Ouya exclusive, and that was That Dragon Cancer. That was...
Did that debuted on Ouya?
It was initially funded by Ouya to be a console exclusive, and then they expanded the scope of the game and had to do a Kickstarter that was endorsed by Ouya and promoted by Ouya, and then it released on Ouya as well as PC and Mac.
Oh, okay.
So not quite.
I had no idea that game was on.
Yeah,
Ouya.
not quite exclusive in the sense that Towerfall was, but that Dragon Cancer released in 2016, which is a year after the Ouya was officially discontinued. So, you know,
it's got an asterisk next to it, I guess. But yeah, when I was I don't know if you know Jabs, when I was kind of like doing some light research for this game. So like you said, this was the creator, Matt Thorson. This was their like Towerfall was Matt's first commercial game,
which is
before this,
very impressive.
Yeah, because before this, Matt had only made kind of like just like browser stuff, and the game was apparently it started as like a game jam with some friends, and it was originally going to be just like a single player kind of like Zelda-ish game that was originally there were going to be more weapons besides just the bow and arrow, but then they decided the bow and arrow would, like, I guess the mechanic worked really well, so like let's just stick to that and kind of build around it.
Why change it, right?
And then like the multiplayer, like the pretty much what Towerfall is today started out as just a multiplayer mode that was going to be added to it, but when they tested it with kind of their indie dev friends, I think Matt was living in like an indie house with like just a bunch of indie devs, like people love the multiplayer. And it was kind of like a thing of like, okay, we have something here. And so like they pretty much just honed in on that. And it was pretty much Matt, and I forget the other gentleman's name, but it was pretty much the two of them that were...
So going off of my intense research into the dev team here on Wikipedia, Matt Thorson, Pedro Medeiros, Amora Bettany, and Alex Holoka, who I guess we should talk about that a little bit now, but Alec passed away, I believe, last year due to suicide, and it was in some way related to the fallout of some revelations that he had been involved in some like sexual misconduct with employees that he had worked with.
Oh, that
yeah,
guy.
yeah.
I did not realize that was him. I remember reading that story.
Yeah, there was some messiness with his professional conduct, I guess.
Yeah, that was a unfortunate to say the least.
And people are probably more familiar with his work from Night in the Woods.
Yes,
he composed the soundtrack to Towerfall, but like Night in the Woods was like him and two of his friends, who I'm blanking on at the moment, but they got together and just really cranked out this game that has really resonated with a lot of people.
Yeah, I love that game.
I need to give it another shot because every time I've tried playing it, I just get upset because it feels like the dialogue is pretentious, but I'm not sure if that's just me, like, not meeting the game where it's at. So, yeah, it's a sad story, but Towerfall is pretty good, and as far as I know, isn't like kind of there's not like a pall of like accusations around it of any kind of sexual misconduct, so that's good.
That's always nice.
It's always nice when you can make a game without, skeletons in your closet
attached to it.
Yeah.
That's all. Yeah, that's I tried it. It's a good thing to aim for. But yeah, like you said, like it released on the Ouya. It sold like, again, relative to how many people own that thing, I think it sold like over like 7,000 copies, and Matt and his and their team made a nice chunk of change off of that, to say the least. Being self-published, and yeah, it was it came to PS4 first. Like Sony was the first to jump on it and sign it as like an exclusive, because it came to PS4 like in like less than a year later, literally.
Yeah.
And then that's what, like, I bought it day one. Like when they announced it, I was like waiting for it. And yeah, it's like I said, it's in my regular rotation for like party games whenever I like hanging out with friends. It's one that I always throw out there, like, hey, Towerfall guys, Towerfall. It's also
really fun and accessible. Like it's easy to wrap your head around, as like even if somebody doesn't know the rules right away, it's very instinctive. Yeah. It's that kind of a game that's really easy to pick up.
And it's very fun to watch, which is, I think, is an important trait of a party game. So like, you want people that aren't playing it to kind of look at it, be like, I want to play that. That looks cool.
Like I think the one hit kill is the thing that really like sells it for a lot of people, because that, like, you understand, and there's like a built-in tension there, right?
Yeah. As also that game, I think it's probably the best use of the PlayStation 4 light bar as well. Like, it's actually useful because it shines the color of the archer that you are, because the archers are color. Yeah, all the archers are color coded. So it's like there's a blue one, a green one. They've added more, like a white and a pink one, and other ones. But yeah, like just being able to look at a controller and be like, oh, that's that. You're this person. Like, it's good.
Yeah, it's how do I put this? Like, it's it's a very economical game. Like it's using all the parts of the controller, like all of the mechanics that it has in interesting and fun ways that translate easily to the player, and like little touches like the light bar are really the things that make this game special. Like it's using everything at its disposal to give you, a very I want to say like catered experience, but I'm not sure if that's really exactly what I mean.
Yeah, and it's also very the design is just it's so tight. Like, it's such a nice like distillation of like when I was reading some stuff about it, like the games that I guess influenced it were like Smash Brothers, obviously, but also what GoldenEye 007 and Bushido Blade, which I was like, oh, Bushido Blade, like that's interesting. But yeah, because Bushido Blade, if you don't know, was a PS1 like 1v1 samurai game where the big hook was like you could die in a hit. Like, it was a fighting game where one hit could kill the other opponent. Like, it's meant to be like a realistic sword thing. And you're like, oh yeah, that's true, because like Towerfall is one hit, you're done. I mean, you can have multiple lives. Like, it's like they literally have like Smash Brothers style stock.
Right.
But yeah, like it has that same tension of Bushido Blade of like, if I get hit once, like I'm out until the next round. And then of course like GoldenEye, like, you know, the kind of like just that party game element, like that excitement of playing against your friends. Like I've had so many nights that reminded me of like being a kid playing GoldenEye with friends, like sleepovers and stuff, like just staying up to an ungodly hour playing over and over again. Like I did that
Slappers
in college.
only.
Exactly, slappers only. And like Towerfall has crazy modifiers like that too. Like it has all these weird little like just so many perks you can play with. Again, it is just the perfect party game. And to kind of take what works about Smash Brothers and boil it down to its kind of like the basics, the core of what makes Smash Brothers fun, while also stripping out the kind of like a lot of the mechanical nuances that can kind of turn people away from Smash Brothers, because it's like, you know, Smash Brothers is still, like, as much as I don't like to consider it a fighting game, it is like a fighting game, and like having to learn, you know, the individual moves and like what advantages each move has against each other and like frame crap. Whereas like Towerfall, just, you know, it's not about this, like, hey, you just shoot your bow. You literally just, if you can aim and shoot, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And it has that same like chaotic fun of Smash without the barrier to entry that Smash can have for some people. Like I've had so much of an easier time selling people on Towerfall than I have on Smash Brothers. That for people that haven't played either of them, like the thing that usually gets people into Smash, like, hey, I know that character, I want to play so I can be that one guy that I remember from that one game.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, oh, Solid Snake's in this. Whoa, I'll play. I'll just be Snake and get my ass kicked. I don't know what I'm doing. Whereas like Tower was like, oh yeah, you jump around and shoot. Like after like a round or two, I find a lot of newcomers become pretty capable at playing the game.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks a lot to its it's just how really brilliantly designed it is. And also we haven't touched on the stages themselves. Like the stages, again, like Smash, like there's so many different stages. They have like different traps and stuff that you can either toggle or happen automatically, like whether it's like lava coming in at the different sides or whatever, and or like the stage like walls that will just crush everybody in the stage. If the match goes on too long, it'll just kill everybody. And so it kind of like, it's almost like a battle royale, like ring closing thing of like, if you guys don't kill each other soon, then, you know, no one's gonna get the wings. You're both gonna die. Yeah. And that makes it even more exciting, because then you're just playing even more frantically, just jumping around at each other. I think there's so much creativity in those stages, and also the secrets that the game has, like being able, like unlocking the secret archers by like what's the one stage, Jack, the like to get the moon archer, like it's like in the castle with the, like to get the white archers, like the moonlight archer, like you have to play there. I don't know what triggers it exactly or if it's random, but like if you play there enough times, eventually, like if you win a multiplayer fight, it'll unlock a fight against the white archer. Like it'll do this little cutscene where like, what's going on, and then the white archer shows up, and it's much like unlocking a new opponent in a Smash. Like, oh, beat him, and then you can play as him. So
it's also like, I never played the single player campaign. I know they added one.
Yeah, it came with the I don't know if it was in the original Ouya release, but I know it was in the PS4 version.
How is the single player campaign?
It's fun. So I played the entirety of it because it's cooperative, and I played with one of my roommates in college. Her and I ran through it together. It's fun because it's pretty much just horde mode. Okay. Like it's just you, guy. You can do it up to 4 players, and you're just fighting waves of enemies. Like every stage is multiple rounds, and every round, you know, intensifies the number of enemies. And you know, the single player isn't nearly as good as the multiplayer, especially if you're playing by yourself. Which playing by yourself, it's you know, it's okay, but if you're gonna do single player, at least have a partner there with you. One, because it gets really hard, but also it's just not as fun. But I think it's fine. Like it works. It's entertaining enough. I think the Dark Fall, what was the big expansion that they added like in 2015? The Dark World. I think that single player is more fun because it's boss battles.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, so that I played some of that.
I've only ever played the multiplayer of this game, so
yeah. Like I didn't finish all of the Dark World single player stuff. Like I played a few of the the levels, but yeah. That one still has like the horde mode waves, but it ends in a legitimate boss battle. Like, so it's like a life bar that you're chipping away at, and those are pretty good. Like, those fights are actually, I think, the best part of the campaigns is the actual bosses, which is weird to say about Towerfall, a game that's about killing things in one hit. Like, to have to chip away at a traditional boss.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like they resurrected the original concept of their game, right? Like, and just kind of allowing people to use that one arrow mechanic to get through those boss fights.
And I think the boss fights, at least the ones that I played, are designed pretty well around the game's existing mechanics. So yeah, like I said, it's a totally solid diversion from the multiplayer thing. But multiplayer is easily the main event of this game.
Yeah,
and it knows that it is
hands down. Yeah, like. It's the reverse of what usually happens, and like the multiplayer is the star of the show here, and the single player is, yeah, I mean, it's nice. It's there and nice, but it's not the reason to play it.
Yeah, and the only big thing that a lot of fans complain about is that this game does not have online multiplayer.
That
it is couch co-op or couch, co-op multiplayer only.
That's one of my big pet peeves now. Like, in 2020, why not build that functionality into your game? Like,
so it's fun. It's funny because when I was looking up research, like, they touched on this. Apparently, the reason that is not in there, at least to begin with, was simply Matt and the crew just didn't know how to do it. They didn't have the technical chops to do it.
But they know how to do it now.
No other reason. I mean, maybe.
He's a millionaire. He can hire someone to do it.
I mean, probably, but it was just hilarious. Like, everyone expects, like, oh, what's the big reason? Like, why didn't it launch with online multiplayer? Like, it seems like a given, and literally the reason was like, we didn't know how to do it. That's the only reason why.
Okay, that's fair.
Like, what do you think we are, game designers? I'm just kidding.
Also, just as a small aside, that kind of links another segment of this podcast to Towerfall. In one of the updates, they added the Blue Archer, and apparently the Blue Archer's design is based on the likeness of Anita Sarkeesian.
Yeah, I saw that, which I had no idea because the Blue Archer's been in there for a while. Like, I remember when they added her, and I did not notice the resemblance at all.
Well, it was, I believe it was a little bit after, kind of I think Gamergate was kind of in full swing at this point, and so I think it was added as kind of like an FU to a lot of like those more vocal proponents of that awful movement.
Yeah, also, God, remember, like, honestly, like, Gamergate also, like, man, remember that? But also when I read Anita Sarkeesian? I always ran Sarkeesian. Like, when I read her, I was like, oh man, there's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Like, that is that name evokes a very specific era for me of gaming. Of like, there's a time when you could not go like a day without hearing like, oh, Anita Sarkeesian something. Sarkeesians, damn it. There wasn't a day I went by without horribly mispronouncing her name.
It's like it's strange because in a lot of ways, like, there's a lot of fallout from Gamergate that still like affects a lot of people in the industry. Like, I know people who were run out of the industry and literally had to change their names to get new jobs, and had to move, and like it's insane what that kind of resulted in, and there's still a lot of aftershocks from it. So, and Anita Sarkeesian was one of those people in the center of it, and that's part of why, as like part of our Women and Tropes in Games series, which you can find a handy playlist for on our SoundCloud. But that's why we started talking about it, because we wanted to actually finally give the videos that Anita Sarkeesian made in 2012 the fair shake that they always deserved in the first place. Because they're basically just Intro to Feminism 101 applied to games. Like, it's not, they're not like swinging for the fences. They're not like trying to really do anything that anyone familiar with like textual analysis would consider groundbreaking or revolutionary, but just because it was one of the first high-profile times that this happened to games, people flipped their lids collectively. So hopefully now we can talk about it without people getting super angry.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying, like, man, I wonder what she's doing now. I haven't heard from her in a while.
I think she's running her feminist frequency. She does like podcasts, and she also streams, and there are several like major shows that she does, and I think she's also making a new video series.
Okay.
So she's
woman after my own heart, constantly doing projects.
Honestly, yes. Despite everyone's best efforts to destroy her. Remember when someone called in a bomb threat because she was going to show up at like an awards ceremony?
Oh yeah, that was a thing that happened on planet Earth one time. Not great. Not our finest hour as people or gamers in general. Yeah. But yeah, she's the Blue Archer. Wow, I went to look up a picture of the Blue Archer. I was like, really? Like, it's gonna be now where like, oh, clearly that's her. But yeah, at the time,
yeah. Also, like our chat brings up a good point. That feminist frequency isn't really strictly dedicated to games, but they talk about all kinds of different media, movies and television, and basically how feminism can be used to view those.
okay.
But yeah, they're not like they're not like a video game centric outlet by any means.
Okay, neat. But on that subject of her being the Blue Archer, I was going to ask you, Jack, if you had a particular archer that you're fond of in Towerfall. Because I have mine.
I mean, I liked the Green Archer.
Oh, I like the Green Archer too. That was mine. Oh my god. What do you like about the Green Archer?
Well, green is my favorite color.
Oh, I did not know that.
And B, I love redheads.
I thought she was like blue. I guess she's red. Yeah, I only picked her at the time because she reminded me of Mirda and Brave.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not even like a huge fan of Brave. Like I think it's a fine movie, but it's not like I'm not in love with the movie. But it came out a year after Brave, or less than a year, roughly. And I just, as a joke when I was going through, because when the game launched, it was only like 4 archers, at least at the start. I was like, oh, I'll pick the brave looking chick just because she's the most identifiable. And then I just kind of stuck. So like every time we played, I would always just race to get her, which never really became a problem. Like none of my friends or people I played with have any real stake in a character. But lately, because so I recently purchased the Switch version of Towerfall. It was on sale for $5, so I was like, that's a great price for one of the, to me, in my opinion, one of the best games of this generation. And the Switch version adds Celeste character, so it's got Madeline,
okay,
and her like dark alter ego, forget her name, but they're in there as archers.
I believe her dark alter ego is called Badeline.
Yeah, something like that. It was like something with a like Baldaline, Badeline. Yeah, they're archers, which I'd actually forgotten that Celeste is made by the same team that made Towerfall. What? Celeste was their follow-up to Towerfall.
What?
Which I don't know how I forgot that. I knew at the time that Celeste released that this was Matt Thorson and Co.'s follow-up game. But yeah, when I bought the Switch, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Of course Celeste characters are in this because it's the same company.
Right. Which I believe the company is called Matt Makes Games, which makes sense.
Well, it's not anymore, though.
It's not. Twist.
No, so during my research, I didn't notice either till I researched, but apparently last September, they changed the name of the company to Extremely OK Games, which is an amazing name.
I'm here for it.
And the reason, like, pretty much the main reason was, like, Matt didn't want the company name to think, like, he didn't want it to seem like Matt was the only one doing everything, basically.
Yeah, they wanted to give everyone else, the credit, right?
Yeah, like Matt's like, I'm not the only creative mind in this place. So yeah, like, so it's the same. They didn't like, it's the same team. They just pretty much just changed the name.
That's a game I definitely need to play because everyone has raved about it. Celeste, it seems like a really a game that should be talked about on this show at some point.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say like Celeste deserves its own episode. I think that's an amazing game.
Do you think it surpasses Towerfall? Like I know it's
it's a
like
very different kind of thing.
Oranges,
but yeah, it's hard to compare. Like they're both exceptional at what they're trying to do, and Celeste has a lot of Towerfall DNA. Like the platforming is very similar. It's just, it's a bit more fine-tuned for purely platforming, but in terms of like the air dashing and stuff, it's like if you like when I first picked it up I was like, oh, I know what to do here, because this is very Towerfall-y. Like you can dash, you can grab. Yeah, like you could do the air grab. Yeah. It's got the air dashes, it's got the ledge grabbing, it's got all that stuff, same art style.
Well, the mechanics in Towerfall are very solid, so like it's no surprise that they would just take those and apply them to a new game and kind of fine-tune them or refine them, right?
Pretty much, like, let's just make this a pure platformer instead of just an action multiplayer platformer.
Is Celeste is there combat in Celeste? Or is it mostly just platforming?
God, I think you can like. God, I should remember this because I played the crap out of it. I was like, at most, I think you can like maybe jump on some things' heads, but I don't even think that's I know it's like 90% platforming. Like it to me is the closest a platformer has come to kind of being a sequel to Super Meat Boy.
Okay, yeah.
Like it's very Meat Boy DNA of like, here's a super hard platforming stage, get across it somehow, and just with a very limited moveset of like, hey, you can jump, dash, grab, and here's a gazillion spikes and platforms, figure it out. And if you die, you start like a half second later, just restart again, so it doesn't really sting that much. But just the way it's designed, it has so many strong Meat Boy vibes, and I'm a huge Meat Boy fan. That I think that that's another reason why I loved it. I was like, oh, this is basically Meat Boy, but with Towerfall mechanics and just an incredible story attached to it too. And music, great music, phenomenal soundtrack. Celeste really deserves its own episode. But if you have not played Celeste, you should go play Celeste because it's a damn good game.
Well, maybe you'll have to come back and we'll talk about Celeste sometime.
Yeah. But yeah, it's crazy now I think about it, like Matt make game, or the former Matt Mates games, now extremely okay games, have been responsible for two of, I think, the best games of this generation in Towerfall and Celeste. So I know they're working on a new project now that hasn't been announced, but they are cranking on something right now. I'm excited to see what that is. But I mean, in the meantime, they can just keep adding to Towerfall, and I will be okay with it. Like they've added so many archers and stages and all kinds of stuff, new power-ups, and
those updates have like continued too, right? Like Celeste is a relatively recent game, and they have continued to add stuff to Towerfall. So like, if you've never played it before and you get in on this ground, like if you have never played it before and you're buying it now, keep in mind that you're getting it with 7 years of additional content.
Including Celeste itself. Like just the characters from Celeste are just in it now. At least on the Switch version. I don't know if the Celeste characters are on the other versions. I know like the Switch version just comes with them.
Well, and it seems like a game that's really well suited to the Switch too. So.
Oh yeah. That's why I bought it, because I was like, I've played the crap out of the one I had on PS4 forever. And I was like, well, I would like to be able to take this anywhere really easily. So, and the Switch version, I think, adds 6 players. So, like,
nice.
The PS4 and Xbox cap at 4. The Switch version caps at 6. And but if you want the full, a lot of people, they released a Windows-only version that I was not aware of until I was looking up research for the show. There's a Windows version, like a standalone version of Towerfall that has 8 players.
Wow.
And apparently it's almost like a separate version of it. I meant to look that up because I was like, I would like to, like, is that like, can I get that on Steam, or what is that on?
Yeah.
I was like, man, I might have to buy that too if it's 8 players on it. Like 6 players was exciting, like 8 players, like just arrows everywhere.
So you think that this is one of the best games of the generation? Can you give like your closing thoughts on like your closing arguments for why this is one of the best games of the generation? Best game, a best game period, just a best game period.
It's one of my favorite multiplayer like party games ever, like competitive multiplayer games ever. Especially in the current console generation, it's probably my favorite next to Smash Brothers. Those are probably 1A and 1B really. Like I said before, it's pretty much just I think it's the most approachable compared to Smash because of how easy the mechanics are. So for a party game, that's really important because if you want people to play that maybe aren't into games as much, the easier to get them into it, the better. You still I think Towerfall still like it benefits if you played a little bit of games because it does involve platforming, which can be tough for a non-gamer to play. Right. But I still think that after like a couple rounds, most people, because I've played Towerfall with a lot of different people and a lot of newcomers, and I've rarely see anyone that's just like, I can't do this, I don't know what this is. So I think that speaks to just how elegantly it's designed, and plus it's just the presentation to it is like, it's so charming, like, and it's so much fun to watch. Like, it's just like, it draws you in with that alone, let alone like everyone in the room just screaming and laughing at each other the whole time. But yeah, like I think like when I've been thinking about this now that we've been winding down to the generation, like what are my like maybe top whatever games of the generation, like top 10 or whatever, like this would easily be in my top 10 just because like it's a game I've come back to so much throughout the last 7 years or so. Never stops being fun. It's been updated, of course, to keep it fresh, but I rarely ever get tired of it. Like I like, much like GoldenEye back in the day where you just go on and on and on. Every time I play it, I'm like, no, let's one more round, let's go, one more round. Like most of the time when we stop, it's usually because we have to, because we have to go somewhere, or like, I don't know, maybe someone else taps out. It's never me that wants to stop.
Again, because you are a font of energy, Marcus. You're kind of talking about like all of these really concepts that are core to like the multiplayer experience and kind of like how it brings people together. And one of the things that is kind of my benchmark for, especially when something is so focused on multiplayer games, is whether or not the core mechanics would be fun if you were just playing them yourself, like playing it yourself. Like, it's why I don't think Mario Party is a particularly great franchise or series, and that's because like you can play it by yourself, but it is a much lesser experience if you do. It's not a great game to play alone, and that's because it is just, in general, the party games are poorly designed, and you don't have that FU factor of like, your friends getting like surprise stars or screwing you over, and it's just not as effective as a single player game because you don't have those other personalities to bounce off of. When it comes to Towerfall, though, the mechanics are really solid. Like, there is just like an inherent joy in jumping around and firing your arrows and like getting power-ups, and the game just feels good to play. And that I think is something that is crucially important and something that I would use to differentiate it from other multiplayer centric games. So it's, I can 100% see where you're coming from. I'm just, part of me worries that like it is like, is there enough meat on its bones to like keep someone playing? And I'm not even sure if that's like a real like knock against it at all, pun intended. It's just that I guess part of this game's strength is its simplicity and accessibility of play, but part of me wonders if, because it is kind of reliant on a lot of external things to spice up the core multiplayer mechanics, if it is like if it can be said to rise to that level, like when multiplayer is the only thing, not the only thing going for it, but like the main thing going for it, I guess.
Yeah, what do you mean by external things?
Like power-ups or something like that. Like, yeah. I mean,
I mean, look at Smash.
I mean, like, I'm listening to what I'm saying. I'm like, even I think that this isn't like a really good argument. I'm just kind of like trying to put that feeling out there to see if like it has any merit to it, or if I'm just like spouting gibberish.
Yeah, because I'd say like you could make the same argument or a similar argument, I guess, for Smash, because like, you know, Smash, a lot of people don't like playing with items, or like the pro players like, hey, you know, Fox only, no items, all that stuff, as straightforward as you can get, and that game's still fun because the core gameplay's fun, and you can't do the same with Towerfall. Like, you can turn all that stuff off and just do pure like, hey, we're just gonna shoot each other with arrows, and it's still a blast. Like the core, like just moving around, jumping, like you said, is just so well tuned, and it's just, you know, like just from the button layout, like it's so easy to pull off everything the game asks of you, but still has a bit of a learning curve to it, like enough of a curve to where you do get better at it, but it's still accessible enough where like even a newcomer can probably get a kill in there and there, and not even a lucky kill, like, oh, I aimed up as the guy was coming at me, and that's, you know, it did what it's supposed to. So like,
I guess it offers opportunities for players to feel clever by using the mechanics just themselves. Like, oh, I aimed up and my arrow came out the bottom of the floor and hit somebody, and that, you know.
Or just like when you shoot really high, because you know if the arrows come back down, they can kill you.
Yeah.
Like just do one of those and just hope like the person isn't paying attention and just gets hit by it. Or you get hit by your own arrow, which is always fun. You know, the ultimate clever move is, of course, that always works 100% of the time, is that you just duck and you make yourself look somewhat invisible, and you do that in your starting position, and you hope that nobody notices you as everybody jumps to start killing each other as soon as the round starts. You just hang back a bit. That always works like one out of 5 times. Until somebody goes like, wait,
kill
asshole
him.
up there isn't doing anything. Why does he still have all his health?
Oh gosh.
That's always good.
Yeah, even as I was saying that, it seemed like a weak point to make, especially for a game like this. So
yeah, I don't know what else I would add to it outside of online multiplayer. That would be the only request, and most people's request. Other than that,
like maybe
they would have to come up
another campaign expansion.
I don't know if I want more campaign from the game. Like the Dark World thing is like, you know, like that game is, like I said, campaign is not the point of that game. It's a fine campaign. It's totally fine, but like, I don't think that would like light the world on fire. Like, hey, you want more campaign in the multiplayer focus thing,
right? Like, but like, if we're thinking about things that could be expanded upon, like maybe it would be interesting to have, like, kind of revisit their original concept of Towerfall and just be like, yeah, we added a campaign in, and also you can use not a bow and arrow. You can use a spear and shield, or like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, I think my veer a bit too far away from the premise, though. I think if you're going to do that,
you might as well just sell a new game.
Yeah, you may as well just, whatever they're working on now, may as well just be that. Or just do Celeste 2 or something. But otherwise, like, outside of online multiplayer, just keep making multiplayer maps. Just keep adding, like, you know, new maps, new special items, you know, new archers. There's already a lot there now, but I would not complain if they just keep doing that forever.
Yeah.
like the game gets to a point where it gets to like Smash Brothers level, like, hey, we have like 80 maps in this game, because I don't know. You guys keep playing it, so we'll keep making stuff for it. Like, I would be 100% down for that.
So Towerfall, best game period, yay, nay?
Oh, yay, absolutely. Great game. I haven't. Who can say a bad word about Tower? I've never heard anyone speak ill of that game.
Clearly, it needed better engineers, because then the tower wouldn't have fallen. Okay.
No, that's the next. That's the next Has Fallen movie, right? Tower Has Fallen. It's the film adaptation of this game. It's going to be that's Gerard Butler,
that series takes a hard turn into fantasy. That would be amazing. I would love that, to be honest.
Isn't Gerard Butler? He's the main character, right?
I think so, yeah.
Like, it's just him as an archer this time. He has to protect the president because another archer is trying to kill him with one hit. So he has to kill the assassin with one hit. So it's them jumping at each other on platforms trying to see who can take the other one out first.
Oh, gosh. And I'm also going to say it's a best game period. I like it a lot. I've never regretted spending time playing Towerfall.
No.
And with that, Marcus, where can people find you on the internet?
Hey, you can find me on a few places. You can find me on Twitter at Marcus Stewart 7. That's the number 7. You can also find me on Twitch at Marcus Streams Games. Usually stream Tuesday and Thursday nights. And you can also find me on my YouTube channel, Marcus Makes Media. Do a bunch of cool, fun gameplay videos there, like a 30 Days of Backlog, where I've been playing a different game for the last 30 days, counting down my personal lockdown here in Florida. Just been pulling games out of my backlog and playing them for the first time, seeing how they do, you know? So that's going on right now. We're on day 21 as of this recording.
How many have you found that you want to go back to?
Honestly, a vast majority of them. I think the only one, like, I haven't really had anything that I was like, nope, never. There's some that maybe like, oh, maybe like later I'll come back to this. But the more, I was surprised at how many I was like, oh yeah, I kind of, like, there's been some I was like, I kind of want to keep playing this now. Like, as soon as I hit stop and recording, I'm just going to keep playing this. So yeah, it's fun. So check that out. And also I have a website, marcuswritesabougames.wordpress.com.
Nice. And you can follow me at Riverboat Jack on twitter.com, and you can follow this show for updates at Best Games Period. And we also have a Patreon. If you enjoyed the show, please consider throwing us $1 per month. It helps the streams and podcasts and all the things we do. We also occasionally put out exclusive content for our Patreon backers. And on top of that, if you become a backer, you get a link to our exclusive backer Discord, where you can chat with us and talk about all kinds of fun video game related stuff, discuss the shows, all of that. Yeah, I hope we'll see you next time on the Flippity Dippity. And thank you, Marcus, for being here.
Of course, anytime. Thank you for having me.
Bye, everybody.